The foundation of religion, we call it Aqeedah or Usul al-Din. Then upon this foundation, all our functions, activities, commitments, obligations, and all our manners are based. So whether we say that the principles of religion are 3, or we say that they are 5, to consider adl, justice, and imamah, succession to the Prophet, separate, or they are related to other 2, the result is the same. Okay, what follows, وَلَا تَجْهَرْ بِصَلَاتِكَ وَلَا تُخَافِتْ بِهَا, it is not our concern just now, but أَيَّمَّا تَدْعُوا فَلَهُ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى. This أسماء الحسنى symbolizes all dimensions of perfection. In my book of Night Journey or commentary on this surah, the last section is only to speak about these 99 most beautiful names, their roots, how many times they are used in the Quran, the first appearance in the Quran, what is the reflection on our belief and what we learn from them. I'm not going to speak about that now. What I'm trying to say is that they are all sources of what? Perfection. So the absolute existence in existence itself, in knowledge, in power, in wisdom, in goodness, and every good quality. All these are symbolized and summarized in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when we are talking about the divine attributes, we are talking about how Allah functions through these qualities or divine attributes. Sometimes people would, or the basic teachings of Aqaed Usul al-Din try to explain the as-sifat al-thubutiyya and as-sifat al-salbiyya, the positive attributes and the negative attributes. And the positive attributes, they call them 8 and the negative 7. But when you refer to them, you see that all of them are derived and related to these al-Asma al-Husna, the most beautiful names. In many hadiths, they are 100 minus 1, 99. And there are many hadiths by both or by all groups of Muslims, Shias and Sunnis, that the Prophet ﷺ said, "Man ahsaha dakhala al-jannah." Man ahsaha, whoever counts them, he will enter paradise. We ask whether counting them is important, or applying them, acting on them, understanding them, matching our activities with them is very important. Okay, one of them is that he is the omniscient, and another one, he is the omnipotent. What is omniscient? Omniscient, the all-knowing. Omnipotent, who is the all-powerful. Omnipresent, he is present everywhere. But when we call him As-Sami', Al-Alim, Al-Basir, Al-Qawi, Al-Qadir, Al-Latif, Al-Khabir, all those few attributes which are towards the end of Surah Al-Hashr, what starts with لو أنزلنا هذا القرآن على جبل لرأيته خاشعا متصدعا من خشية الله. Then هو الله, and it follows he is البارئ الخالق السميع المصور, and many other attributes there. So is it that we just count them, write them on a piece of paper, or sometimes you see that they are made in very, very nice way, in nice calligraphy, for example, or sometimes some tapes to repeat them, or to know them, to act upon them? And one of the examples which I'm going to mention just now is Allah. One of his names, one of his most beautiful names is Al-Ghaffar, the oft pardoner or forgiver, the oft forgiving. We know that definitely we cannot go closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala physically, because he is not a matter. And this materialistic idea, this tangible idea, because we used to approach things through that sense, or those senses are our means to know the external existence, but the external world. But let's concentrate on the spiritual closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this closeness to Allah, this spiritual closeness to Allah, is impossible without adopting those attributes with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One of them is what? That he is Al-Ghaffar. So if you cannot forgive the one who wronged you, some people say that when there is a dispute between two parties and you try to reconcile and create some sort of harmony and bring them together, one of them insists on his or her opinion. No, I'm not going to forgive this person at all. I will hold him accountable on the day of judgment in the presence of divine justice, and I never forget that. The answer to these people is that you do not wish to adopt the divine attribute of Al-Ghaffar or Al-Ghafur, the oft forgiving. And one of the attributes, divine attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is Sattarul Uyub, the one who conceals, who does not make it public, the faults of others. So if you are always searching for other people's faults and try to speak about them, backbite them, slander, speak evil about them, which means that you are not acting upon one of the attributes, one of the 99 attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So how can you go close to him whilst you are moving in the opposite direction? So you can only get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not only when you start your salat. I pray 2 rak'at salat al-fajr qurbatan ila Allah ta'ala, which means that I seek closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by these 2 rak'ats. No, this is impossible if you do not act upon the divine attributes. Mercy. So what is the purpose of somebody who repeats 10 times? No, 1,000 times. No, 1,000,000 times. Repeats Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of Allah, the merciful, the most compassionate, or whatever, beneficent. And there is no mercy in their heart. I mean that they are moving in 2 different directions, opposite directions. So how can you refer yourself to be a good servant to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala whilst you are not happy with one of the divine attributes? Okay. So as I said, I started with an introduction about Aqeedah. Then I said in 20 minutes we are going to discuss what we can feel happy with in argument regarding existence of God by differentiating between the inherent and acquiring capacities and qualities. The second part of our discussion today is what, unfortunately, we are faced with some extremists who are creating and making a labeling machine. When you go to supermarkets, you see some workers have a machine which put the prices on the different items on the shelf. Yeah? They take it from the box and they put the prescribed price for it, then put it on the shelf. There are some Muslims who have a labeling machine, and that doesn't refer to the prices, it refers to one word: shirk, shirk, shirk. They come to any activity which doesn't suit them and they don't understand it, and they label it with shirk or kufr, as if they have not achieved anything in life except this labeling machine. Yeah. Call them extremists, call them takfiriyin, call them this. I'm not talking about the names. I'm talking about the action itself. Okay. They put some questions in the mind of people who do not have clear understanding about Aqeedah, and we are going to deal with that. First of all, they say that if you ask other than Allah, it is shirk. If you call upon anyone other than Allah, it is kufr. If you think that anyone other than Allah will benefit or harm, again, this is rejection of faith. This is bid'ah. This is innovation. This is shirk. This is kufr. Let's analyze this. In first step, we ask this question, that are we going to base our discussions on the Quran or on your understandings? The answer for any Muslim is to refer to the Quran. When we notice the following examples in the Quran. Example 1, that the Prophet Isa alayhi salam, Jesus, when told children of Israel of the Israelis, or Bani Israel, told them that I've been sent as a messenger from Allah to you. He said, what's the proof? He had to show 5 proofs. The first, he said that I create and make a bird, a shape of a bird from the clay. أني أخلق لكم من الطين كهيئة الطير. Then what I do? أنفخ فيه, I breathe in it or blow in it, فيكون طيرا بإذن الله. So one of the signs or one of the proofs where Isa alayhi salam wanted to show to his followers, to his people, that he made, and now every child normally have that clay for their whatever plays they do and games. So he said that, he claimed that I make a shape of a bird from that clay, then I أنفخ فيه, I blow in it, it becomes a real bird and flies. فيكون طيرا بإذن الله. Maybe if somebody like that speaks about this in our contemporary life, in our time, they would think, what's superstitious things? I mean, what's this? Is this black magic or it is this and that? Anyway, but it is a fact. It is in the Quran. The second, that I revive the dead. وأني أحيي الموتى. The history doesn't tell us how many times the Prophet Isa had to do that in order to convince his followers. But it is a fact. أني أحيي الموتى بإذن الله. With the permission of Allah, I will revive the dead. So it would definitely, there have been incidents where people who are dead, and everybody thought that, no, that's the end of it. They brought him to Isa alayhi salam, and Isa did what? I don't know. But by some supplications, by rubbing on his chest or in his head or whatever, all right? أحيي الموتى. The gentleman or the lady stood up and continued their life as usual. The third one and fourth one, the third one, there were incurable diseases those days. And this is called baras in Arabic, which are the white patches on the skin. Okay, there are sometimes people who have this skin disease in their forehead or in the hand, yeah? And even nowadays, it is very difficult to cure, yeah? So, وَأَنِّي أُبْرِئُ الْأَكْمَهَ وَالْأَبْرَص. Al-Abras, the one who has this skin disease, and Al-Akmah. The Akmah is the deaf and dumb. Because they are deaf, they don't hear the sounds, so they can't differentiate between them, so automatically they can't speak. All right? And the fifth one, وَأُنَبِّئُكُمْ بِمَا تَدَّخِرُونَ فِي بُيُوتِكُمْ. I tell everybody what he stored in his storage. 5 kilograms of rice, 2 kilograms of sugar, how many bags of potato, for example, this and that. أُنَبِّئُكُمْ بِمَا تَدَّخِرُونَ. So there are 5 things. Our question is that when Isa alayhi salam says that I revive the dead, and we know that reviving the dead and giving the life is only the act of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if we refer this act of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to somebody being a messenger or anyone else, he is a servant of Allah. He is created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is this kufr? Is it against Tawheed? Or it is not? What solves the problem is that he uses the phrase bi'idhnillah. I'm not doing that independently. I'm not doing that on my own power and capacity. I do it with the permission of God, with the God-given power. So, it was correct that people who were dead, who were returned to life with whatever touch or whatever action of the Prophet Isa alayhi salam, but it wasn't referred to him. It was bi'idhnillah, with Allah's permission. One. Second, Ibrahim alayhi salam, when he was challenged by his people and they asked him, who is your Lord? Who is God? He said that he is يطعمني ويسقين وإذا مرضت فهو يشفين. He feeds me, he quenches my thirst, and when I get ill, he cures me. وإذا مرضت فهو يشفين. So definitely, if according to this ayah, the cure is referred to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is the real curer. He is the one who gives cure to the ailments. If this is the case, why do you go to doctor? I'm sure that all those who are in this room, at least once, they've been to the doctor, if not 10 times. Yeah. Either to dentist or for eyesight or this and that. Yeah. So if the cure comes only from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is indeed, there is no need for doctors. Third example, we know that rizq and provision is only from Allah, because one of the divine attributes is that He is Razzaq. Yeah, He's the provider. We agree and we know, and this is part of our faith, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the provider, Al-Razzaq. Inna Allah huwa al-Razzaqu dhul quwwati al-mateen. Okay? By the way, any Quranic reference to ayat which I mention here, I can present them in the beginning of next session. So don't worry, if you get the ayat, the Quranic reference to that, I can mention them inshallah when we meet next time. So, Allah is the Razzaq. He is the provider. الله لطيف بعباده يرزق من يشاء وهو القوي العزيز. إن الله هو الرزاق ذو القوة المتين. Okay. من يرزقكم. We have tens of ayat about Allah to be what? The Razzaq, the provider. So if this is the case, why should people go to work, ask for employment, and worried about unemployment? Let them rely on the Razzaq, who is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, stay at home, and there is provision will come automatically. There is no need for them. And from today, let the wives do not ask their husbands to give them money for shopping. And let the children don't ask their parents for pocket money, because their provision and their rizq is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what is the role of job, qualification, employment, father, husband, to let us have that provision? And the last example from the Quran, which I'm going to make it concise to fit within our time, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Surah Yusuf that after Yusuf was separated and his father Yaqub cried many, many years until he became blind. After a while, when his brother Binyamin was brought next to him to join him after the full story you know in Surah Yusuf, then he knew him, his brothers. There were 12. The other 10 knew Yusuf and Binyamin and asked him to forgive them. Said, okay, your apology is accepted. Take my shirt, take it to my father, put it on his face, يرتد بصيرة. He will regain his sight. We know that Yaqub alayhi salam became blind. And we know that if anyone supposed to retain his sight by Allah's permission, supposed to be a messenger or someone in very, very high caliber. But what is the role of the shirt? Can you tell me what is the role of the shirt? Yusuf gives his own shirt and says, take this shirt and put it on the face of my father, he will regain his sight. And not only that, when they became close to Yaqub, Yaqub said, Inni la ajidu riha Yusuf. I smell, this smell is Yusuf's. It was some 2 days before they arrived. So people around him said that now you are losing your sense. You are crazy. Until what time you remain remembering Yusuf and in love with Yusuf? Forget about him. And that's why you see the Quranic term, لولا أن تفندون. لولا أن تفندون. We say that you accuse me of being crazy and you deny me and say that I'm talking nonsense. Yeah. I definitely know that this is the smell of Yusuf. So when Al-Bashir, the one who was bringing the Bishara, the good tidings, came and put Yusuf's shirt on his father's face, immediately he opened his eyes and, oh, he can see. Conclusion. We know that Allah is the provider. Allah is the one who makes the dead alive, revive the dead. Allah is the one who cures the deaf and dumb. Allah who can tell us about the hidden al-ghayb, what people store in their storages and have things like that. Allah knows about everything behind the curtains of this physical world. Allah is the curer. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not practice his power directly. Rather, there are means. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows the herbs and vegetables to grow. But through what? The sun and the water. So you need the sun to allow the herbs and the vegetation to grow. And you need the water. So we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the ultimate creator. Allah is the source of everything. But he does not exercise his power directly into things. Rather, there are means, there are wasa'it, there are tools. So he is a shafi, he is the curer, but through the medicine and the doctor. He is the provider, but either through the employment, the job you have, or your parents, or whoever is going to provide for you or maintain you. Going back to the question that mostly the Wahhabis support it, and it is part of their Aqeedah, that if you ask and call upon other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is against Tawheed. You say no. If you think that all other means and tools are working separately and independently, you're right. But if they act and do as means given the power by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is the Tawheed itself and nothing to violate Tawheed at all. So, we conclude that believing in one true God was advocated by all messengers. It is the cornerstone for all messages from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is the beginning of any divine teaching, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one with Asma'ul Husna, the divine attributes, and we have to adopt those divine attributes in our life in order to get closer to Him, spiritually closer. And the last word is that when we know that any prophet, any creature, any person, any natural cause who would be means for Allah's functioning through this nature, through our life, through His qualities are presented, but all these tools and all these means are only appointed by Him and supported by Him and given the power by Him. So they are not working independently, they are working as with the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Yusuf's shirt did not work for itself, it worked with the permission of Allah. And that clay was made as in the shape of bird by Isa, was made with the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And any action which seems supernatural or non-physical or anything related to ghaib, the hidden, it is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but through the natural causes.